So first of all, I would like to thank Ishanda Ayya for giving me this huge opportunity, and also the Wilderness and Wildlife Protection Society of Royal College to keeping a such event. These kinds of events, so the future generation can actually learn from this stuff very well. Then, first of all, actually wait a bit. All right. So I thought of explaining the process of evolution of mammals as a brief overview on the mammalian evolution from the start of Mesozoic era to the present. Okay, now we all are very much familiar with the concepts of the mammals, as since we all are mammals, right? So first of all, what is evolution? Can you say that? The definition?
So the change in the features of an organism or group of organisms.
Yeah, okay. Actually, it's very simple, right? The change in, it may be a physical feature, okay? It may be a behavioral feature. So now I thought of giving you a more simpler one, change in the properties of groups of organisms over the course of generations. Now, the most commonly can be shown, the most simple example is the human. Human, we all know that who is our ancestor. Does anyone know our ancestor, human ancestor?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Apes.
Apes. Okay, great apes. So we can actually see that the change which occurred physically in order to create a human, right? Then someone, okay. So to explain.
Excuse me, sir, you are muted. Yeah, you are muted.
Oh, okay, someone muted me. All right, then. To explain the process of evolution, I thought of first explaining you the origin of life. So there are many theories put forward to explain the origin of life. And the first one, they may be having scientific backgrounds or not. They may be religious, scientific, or theoretically or mythical. Then first one is theory of creation. It was put forward by Christianity, and it shows that the God created the earth and gave life for every living being. Then there's spontaneous generation. Now this spontaneous generation concept, it actually has a more scientific background and also a non-scientific mythical background. According to this, all living organisms were created from non-living substances simultaneously. Now, it does not actually explain who created that or what made such an effect. It just say that this organic or the living organisms are created by inorganic substances. Now, spontaneous generation, actually the Aristotle, you guys know Aristotle, right? Aristotle was also the one who believed in this theory. Then cosmologic theory. Does anyone know cosmologic theory?
Yes, sir.
No, I don't know.
Okay.
The cosmologic theory is the theory that life came from the outer space, like aliens.
Yeah, okay, very good. So cosmologic theory, it explains that life came from aliens. More scientific background, because we don't know there are aliens or not. They say that the life on Earth were created on a spore. That means like a spore giving rise to another generation of plants. A spore was transported into the Earth by a meteorite. Now we don't know where is its origin, or we don't know who created that, nothing, but we, hello.
So there is also another theory that says God made this whole world.
Yeah, so that's called theory of creation. I explained that, right? So there are many theories. That's why I said that these theories have scientific and religious backgrounds. We don't know they are correct or wrong, because sometimes these theories, now initially we all believed in theory of creation, right? Everyone before the scientific evolution or revolution, okay, before the scientific revolution, everyone believed in theory of creation. Then later on, the scientists started to give more scientific background on how the life was generated. and then they came to put forward the spontaneous generation, cosmologic theory, and lastly this biochemical evolution. Right? Am I clear? Answer please.
Aya, what about the nebula?
Nebula, that's a part of the universe. So a nebula is actually a destruction of a collection of, it may be a planet or it may be a solar system. So when a nebula is created, actually it could give rise to a meteorite, which may be transporting the life into Earth. It may, okay, we don't know. Okay, so then comes the biochemical evolution. That's the most important one because that's the currently accepted theory. According to that, I'll explain it briefly because I need to give you a basic understanding on this theory in order to explain what is evolution and later on come to mammalian evolution. All right, Big Bang theory actually created the universe, right? So later on it created the Earth, and Earth started to get cooled, and those inorganic gases such as methanes, ammonias were collected surrounding the Earth. Then later on excess energy was found such as UV rays. Do you guys know UV rays?
Yes, sir. Ultraviolet rays.
Ultraviolet rays. Very good. Very good. So ultraviolet rays, actually they are having high energies. So they started to dissociate these gases, these ammonium gases, methane gases. Later on, molecule oxygen and hydrogen. The oxygen we breathe in known as molecule oxygen, and hydrogen gas was created. Hydrogen gas is having a low molecular weight, therefore it got evaporated out from the Earth, and later on oxygen, being very reactive, started to react with other present inorganic gases to produce organic substances. Now here on, the UV radiation started to act upon the present oxygen and to create ozone. You guys know what's ozone, right?
Yes, yes.
Ozone. An ozone layer was created on top of the Earth, a much thicker one than the present ozone layer, and later on it inhibited the arriving of other UV radiation to the Earth's surface. Thereby, Earth started to get more cold, and rapid condensation of water vapor, which was found initially, started to occur. And it was raining for 2 million years, okay? It was raining roughly for 2 million years, just rain. Then these produced organic gases got dissolved in this rain and got collected in these kinds of pools. In the background, I've given you a picture, right? You can see that several pools surrounding geysers and lava volcanoes. So they got collected in there, and later on they gave rise to other biochemical, major biochemicals such as carbohydrates, proteins, lipids, nucleic acids, and so on. And later on, bacteria was created. That's the basic introduction for this biochemical evolution. So then later on, now let's go for evolution. Now I gave you a rough idea about how the evolution started to occur, right? Factors for evolution. Now they haven't actually said these factors are responsible for evolution and those factors are needed, because evolution is actually a random thing. We cannot precisely say this is that and likewise. Therefore, I've shown that doesn't follow Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium. Now here's the thing. Hardy-Weinberg, two Russian scientists, I think, I actually can't remember, they both got together and gave a theory to explain the factors needed to prevent evolution. Okay, so to prevent evolution, there should not be animal movements. It should be an ideal population. There should not be any mutations. There should not be any natural selection. Okay, now
Why would they want to stop the evolution?
no, not to stop evolution. They have shown the factors needed to prevent evolution. Like if you stop evolution, you could by doing these things, right? You could, but not to that much extent. If you follow these factors precisely, not the given ones in here, I have taken the opposite of that, because now I'm talking about the factors needed for evolution. That's why, okay? So to prevent evolution, we have to stop animal movement. We have to be an ideal population. There should not be any mutations. There should not be any natural selections, okay? Am I clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so here I've shown you the factors needed for evolution, animal movement. So you guys can see now this organism is found in Africa, India, and Antarctica. Okay, so it may be the movement of the animal, or it may be the movement of the whole continent. Either way, the animal is separated from their ancestors. So initially, these animals were found in a larger extent of area, but later on, Africa got separated from another area, India and Antarctica got separated, and so on. It created separate populations of species in which could evolve separately, right? Then later on, an unideal population. What is an ideal population? Let's talk about that. Ideal population is a group of organisms trapped in a restricted area in which no one can get in or get out. Okay, so just think, for an example, a group of dogs having black and white. So if you trap a group of black fur, even after there should only be black and white dogs, no brown dogs. Okay, so when it is an non-ideal population, even after 1,000 years, there may be brown dogs. So that means someone has entered here. Okay, so that's known as an ideal population. I gave you a basic introduction on this. Okay, now this is having a more genetic, more scientific, more complex scientific introduction, but I just gave you a basic idea. Then mutations. Mutations, some can be harmful, some can be useful. Okay, the harmful ones, for an example, like cancers, they are also mutations. So those harmful ones kill the organism and later on remove that species. But sometimes they may be advantageous mutations, such as change of color, change of body parts, so on. Okay, so that's called mutation. Then natural selection. Does anyone know about natural selection?
The survival of the fittest.
Survival, that's a part of natural selection. Yeah, you are actually correct. Survival of the fittest. So these people who put forward this theory was Charles Darwin and Russell Wallace. Okay, now these two, they gave a theory by observing all the populations on Earth, most of the animal populations, and they theorized that there is a constant struggle for survival within species. For mates, it may be for mates, it may be for food, it may be for land, niches, environmental niches, so on, and then there is survival of the fittest. Survive and get eliminated. All right, so I have given you the earliest map of continents, the supercontinent known as Pangaea, and later on it got separated for Laurasia and Gondwana Island, and so on until to the modern geological map. Now, the reason which I gave you this is in the other part. I'll go for that. So, continental drift. Have you seen the movie Ice Age? That was a movie.
Yes,
right?
sir. Yes. Ice Age
so,
continental drift.
Yeah, that's right. Ice Age continental drift. You guys can remember that the continents at once started to get separate.
Ice started melting and then the iceberg started to get separated.
Then?
And then they ran for their lives.
Okay, actually, yeah, it's precisely that what happened. So in continental drift, that's actually a major scientific theory. Pangaea, which was earlier known as the supercontinent, the whole world was known as, the whole continent collection was known as Pangaea, led by a catastrophe known as continental drift. Actually, it's a catastrophe because majority of the organisms died. It converted into Laurasia and Gondwana Island. Laurasia, in this name, you can see that LA means Latin America, UR means Europe, Asia means Asia. So all those three continents were collectively known as Laurasia, and the rest of them were known as Gondwana Island. So this happened at the before the origin of true mammals. Okay. Now, there are two types of mammalian ancestors. There are true mammals and there are stem mammals. So before the, I'll explain who are who. before the arrival of true mammals, this continental drift occurred, and many reptilian and amphibian orders were separated, and thereby it helped in the process of evolution. So, anyone about this? Those geological time periods, Cambrian period, Ordovician period, such. Does anyone know? Hello.
Jurassic.
No.
Jurassic, someone answered, right? So, okay, so everyone, I think most of you guys know what happened in Jurassic period, right? There are even movies made for that.
Jurassic World.
Jurassic, yeah. So they created based on that. So I have shown you the major type of, now I have given you the time period, another shadow picture of that organism which were dominant in that time period. Okay. Now initially in the Cambrian period there were trilobites, later on nautilus, later on sea scorpions, primitive fishes, brachiopods, giant insects, primitive reptiles, and so on, first dinosaurs later on. Okay. So this Mississippian period and Pennsylvanian period, later on, initially it was known as Carboniferous period. But later on, due to other scientific discoveries, they separated it as another two geological periods. You should keep in mind that at the end of each period and start of another period, there is at least one major catastrophic event which involved in elimination of majority of organisms. That's essential, and that's kind of sure. Okay, so at the end of Permian period, there was a large catastrophe which known as the Great Dying, which eliminated 87% of animals, and later on Triassic period started. Then at the end of Triassic period, there was another major catastrophe. Actually, there's no name given for that. At the end of Jurassic was another one, and the most famous one was at the end of Cretaceous period, which killed all the dinosaurs. Okay, so I've given you a rough classification from tetrapods, our earliest ancestor of all organisms on land, to the mammals. So does anyone know who's a tetrapod is? Does anyone know that?
No.
Okay, tetrapod initially found in ocean. So later on, they started to come to land. So the first organisms who were able to walk on four legs were known as tetrapods. Tetrapods, they later on separated into amphibians and amniotes. Does anyone know who's an amniot is?
Yes, sir.
Can you roughly explain it to me?
Amniotes were like these shell creatures which were like squids, but they have these big shells at the back.
Their fossils are found.
Ammonites, they are two separate people. Ammonites and amniotes are two separate ones. Okay, ammonites are found in ocean. Amniotes are found on land. Okay, now amniot is an organism which were able to lay eggs on land. Now the difference between amphibians and amniotes are that amphibians need a water source in order to lay their eggs, but they can live on land. But amniotes, here, they were able to lay their eggs on terrestrial land. So that's a major step on the process of evolution. They aren't able to achieve the land habitat. Then later on, amniotes got separated for saurapsids and synapsids. Synapsids are the major important one because the earliest non-mammalian ancestors. Earliest non-mammalian means they are not mammals, they are another type of organism, but showing certain mammalian features are found in the synapsids. Saurapsids, they later on got separated for producing reptiles and dinosaurs. Okay, so you guys can see that during the same time period, dinosaurs and early mammals were both created. Okay, here there was a fight for dominance. Who's going to live on land? And the dinosaurs were the one who won. Synapsids, they gave rise to Pelycosaurus. Pelycosaurus gave rise to therapsids. later on for cynodons, later on for mammals. I'll explain it later. So now you guys might be thinking, who's our earliest true mammalian ancestor? Now that's the organism I've given here. This is known as Hydrocodium vui. So he was found, the fossil was found on Sichuan province in China. He was known to be originated in the early Jurassic. Early Jurassic means during this time period. Okay? You can see my mouse cursor, right? So during this time period, this organism was created, and later on, dinosaurs were dominant, but this organism also lived on land burrows. Later on, after dinosaurs got eliminated, this organism started to diverse. So Dimetrodon, also known as a stem mammal or a synapsid, and therapsids. I've taken two separate organisms collectively together because it's easy to explain. Dimetrodon. Does anyone know about dimetrodons?
Sir, that when it looks like a dinosaur, but it actually is. It was in the time period before a dinosaur, before the dinosaurs.
Yeah, very correct. Okay, so they are not mammals. They are not mammals. They are reptilians. But the thing is, they are having features similar for dinosaurs. They are having features similar for mammals, but they are truly reptiles. Okay, so they are not truly reptilian, but they are not truly mammalian either. So they lived during Paleozoic era and got eliminated during Mesozoic era, a non-mammalian species. The present mammals are not direct descendants. Now, why is that? Now, to be a direct descendant, the parents should also have most of the mammalian features of their younglings. But these organisms, they actually had only 1 or 2 features. Actually, to be precise, they had, I think, 1, 2, 3 features. 3 mammalian features. I'm talking about Dimetrodons. Okay, there are many other synapsids, many other organisms who showed 1 or 2 mammalian features. For an example, one organism showed the presence of fur. Another organism showed the ability to thermoregulate, like control body temperature. Then another organism were able to walk on hind legs, so on. Okay, not collective together. That's why we are not calling them as true mammals. Then this is the okay. Any questions?
Yes, sir. Even in dinosaurs, there were a couple of dinosaurs which had fur, some which had feathers, and all that. Are those also considered as synapsids?
Yeah, majority known as synapsids, because synapsids, some gave rise for mammals and some gave rise for other dinosaur origins, but later on they got eliminated, right? There is a constant struggle for survival. Only a certain species is able to survive. So most of the other orders which were created by these organisms were eliminated because of this survival. Okay, so just think the organisms having these mammalian features, the dinosaurs having these mammalian features, they were unable to fight for dominance with regarding other dinosaurs. So they got eliminated. Okay. Then Dimetrodons, those synapsids gave rise for therapsids. Wait, before that, Dimetrodon name two. Metrodons means sets of teeth. Okay, now that is a mammalian. The of different types of teeth. Here they had a teeth. The front teeth were evolved to tear away and shred the food, the plant fibers, and the hind teeth were modified in order to chew them. Then they were also able to walk on their front legs. Now, have you guys seen those lizards, those chameleons, those organisms? They are actually crawling on.
That creature was also there in Ice Age.
Yeah. Actually, now we say that these organisms actually got eliminated during a certain time period, but that's not actually true, because some were able to survive more than others. Okay, now we say, for an example, just take therapsids. They lived about 260 million years ago, but how can we be precisely sure that these organisms survived 260 million years ago? Some were able to survive another year or two. Okay, so that's like general. So that's why most of these organisms are mixed up together. Right now they had another special feature, control of body temperature. That's a mammalian feature. And you can see this large fan-like structure, right? So this has a thin membrane, and when their body got warmed up, they started to pump their blood into this fan-like structure, and due to direct contact with the, yeah, tell me.
Like Stegosaurus.
Yeah, they also had large fan-like structures, right? Two, I think. I can't actually remember the picture.
They have
Yes, sir. Yeah, two fan-like structures.
Two fan-like structures, yeah. Now, they are mammalian features. Why is that? Because being warm-blooded or the ability to control body temperature is a mammalian feature. And some birds are also having that. And these reptiles, they are cold-blooded. They can't actually control their body temperature. Now, these kinds of features made these organisms therapsids. Then, no, not synapsids. Then later on, therapsids were acquired from them. Their legs were positioned under the body instead of alongside. Therapsids became the most common and diverse land vertebrate during the second half of Permian period. Okay, now we are still at the period. Okay, now this hydrochlorium buoy was known to arise during Jurassic period, but actually you guys can see that some mammalian features were actually arise during Permian period, right? Then comes for cynodonts. Cynodonts, does anyone know who an cynodont is? Hello.
Hello?
Okay. So cynodont is an organism created by therapsids. Okay, therapsids gave rise to cynodonts. Cynodonts, they were able to flourish worldwide during first half of Triassic period. Now, Triassic period is known for the origin of dinosaurs also. So both of them, dinosaurs and cynodonts, were both found during Triassic period. Now, cynodonts were strictly herbivorous. They depended on those plant substances. Then dinosaurs, they were actually more flexible. They were herbivorous, but they were more flexible, and they started to depend on different food diets. So there was a struggle for dominance, but actually the dinosaurs were the one who won it, because during this Triassic period, now the Pangea was all created, and now it got separated, okay, the continents. And due to that, the dry climate is more favorable towards reptiles than mammals. That is why dinosaurs were able to dominate during this time. Some of them ate insects and were nocturnal. Now, insect eating one, those cynodonts were created later on, okay, not the large initial cynodonts are very large. I'll show you later on, I've given it. Now, the smaller cynodonts, they were able to depend on insects and were nocturnal and active at night. Some of their mammalian traits may have been adaptations for their nocturnal niche. For example, the ability to regulate body temperature and a good sense of hearing. Now, body temperature regulation, about that. Now, another thing is good sense of hearing. For mammals, what is the special feature found in mammals, mammalian ear? Does anyone know that? Special feature found in mammalian ear. Guys, can you hear me?
Outer ear, they have an outer.
Sir,
Outer ear.
outside the body.
Outside, outer ear, part of the ear is outside the body.
Yes,
and
part of the ear.
Okay, part of the ear, because the rest of it is found inside the skull. Also, there's another feature. Now, that is a valid feature because other mammalian groups, the other animal groups, doesn't show that external ear. Presence of ear bones. Ear bones involved in amplification of sound. That means amplification of sound means that it increases the frequencies of the sound waves so we can hear it better. So why does the presence of a good sense of hearing help cynodonts to survive during the dinosaur dominancy? That's because dinosaurs started to hunt during daytime and cynodonts started to hunt during nighttime. So for nighttime, they needed a good sense of hearing because then there's no light. They are depending on their ears in order to hunt. Also, another thing, they didn't have any good eyesight because they are hunting during nighttime and sense of well-developed eyes are actually useless. Then, by the end of, do you guys have any questions?
No.
Okay. By the end of the Jurassic period, cynodonts had become even more small in size. So if you guys have any questions, just private message me, okay? They also had evolved many mammalian traits. For example, 4 different types of teeth. Now, the different types of teeth, I explained that Dimetrodons were the initial ones who were able to show this. For humans also, we have 4 different types of teeth. Now we have canines, incisors, premolars, molars. Canines and incisors, they involve in tearing and shredding of food. Premolars and molars, that involve in grinding of food. That's very important because we have several kinds of diets. The mammals, they may be eating plants, they may be eating other animals, they may be eating even bones. So in order to eat those, we have to have a good dentition, like a good mouth structure in order to bite into them. A relatively large brain that basically explain that our mammalian evolution, because the humans were able to evolve because of this and dominate. 3 tiny bones in the middle, I explained that. A diaphragm for breathing. Diaphragm is a membranous structure found inside our body that help in lung mechanism. So we are able to breathe very well because of this diaphragm. Then endothermy, control of body temperature. Lactation. Does anyone know what is lactation is? Guys?
No.
Okay.
No, sir.
Lactation is the
Producing
process of... Yeah. Lactation is giving milk. That's the basic explanation. So most of the organisms, when they lay eggs, their youngling hatch out and they start to hunt for themselves. Now mothers couldn't hunt for their babies, and that inhibited the process of evolution because most of the organisms were killed off due to that. But in mammals, the mother started to create a perfect diet, a diet consisting of all the required vitamins, minerals, nutrients, everything, so that the baby can survive until it is able to hunt. Then presence of hair, that also help in body temperature regulation because it keeps us warm. Now human doesn't have hair surrounding the body because we are more evolved than that, and the environment conditions are also different, but other animals have the presence of hair. Cynodonts probably gave rise to mammals about 200 million years ago. They were extinct during Jurassico-Cretaceous period. Now cynodonts, here's the funny part, cynodonts gave rise for the other mammals, but later on they had to fight for dominancy even after the elimination of dinosaurs, and the mammals were the one who won. They started to adapt for all the terrestrial, aquatic, arboreal habitats, and cynodonts couldn't keep up with that. They couldn't hunt, so most of them got eliminated, and finally they got extinct. Later on, they extinct during Jurassico-Cretaceous period. Now, Chicxulub impactor. Does anyone know about this Chicxulub impactor? The great meteorite?
Yes, I read about it in a book, sir.
Yeah. So
it's in the middle of Mexico somewhere.
Yeah, very correct. It is in the middle of Mexican Bay, actually. So it is a large meteorite which collided on the Earth at the end of Cretaceous period, which eradicated and extincted all the dinosaurs, and 75% of plants crashed on the Earth about 66 million years ago, left behind a crater off the coast of Mexico that spans about 93 miles and goes 12 miles deep. Still, you can see that crater. Okay. Right. Now, the climatic change and due to the collision, initially a large release of energy occurred. Now they say that it's like equal to 100,000 bombs which were put to Hiroshima and Nagasaki. I actually don't know the validity for that statement, but they are comparing that for that. Then due to that, another scenario occurred, creation of large tsunami waves. So these tsunami waves were able to eradicate most of the coastal dinosaur habitats. Then later on, it created a large dust cloud. Now all these scenarios occurred during the first hour of this collision, okay? After the first hour of collision, a dust cloud was created, the release of heat killed most of the dinosaurs, and tsunami waves were created. Then this dust cloud, it covered the sun for several years, drastic global winter for several years. Now here's the thing. Have you guys known about this greenhouse effect?
Yes, it's happening right now.
Right now, yeah, that's happening right now. So similarly, a concept related to greenhouse effect occurred during this drastic global winter, the opposite of it. Now, the greenhouse effect explains that the warming, the abnormal warming of atmospheric temperature. But here, it was the other way around. The earth started to get cold. Why is that? Because the dust clouds started to cover the sun and the UV radiation got reflected back. They weren't able to transparent the dust cloud wasn't transparent, so those UV radiation couldn't collide on the Earth's surface. Large land organisms were dead and most of the terrestrial plants were destroyed. So I think after Continental Drift, the Ice Age Continental Drift movie, this should be a movie because now there's another ice age. There were several ice ages. Now this is another ice age. So after the destruction of Pangaea to produce Laurasia and Gondwana Island, here there was another large ice age which killed most of the terrestrial plants. Then the survived reptiles evolved to birds and smaller mammals and started to diverse. Birds were originated from reptiles, and other smaller mammals, they were able to diverse because now the dinosaurs wasn't there. So the organisms, the predators weren't there. They were able to hunt during daytime. Now, insectivorous animals survived and started to depend on larger diets, cretons. Now, the initial insectivorous animals known as cretons, they started to have a much larger appetite for food because now no one is going to take their food. They can hunt as much as they want. They can live freely. So that is what happened here, and this caused the evolution of mammals. Evolution of mammalian, early mammals. The earliest mammals evolved were from Dimetrodons, but the evolution of mammals didn't end there. Mammals continued to evolve. Monotreme mammals probably split off from other mammalians first. They were followed by marsupials, then later placental mammals. Monotremes. Does anyone know about monotreme?
No,
Monotreme. Have you guys seen that? Monotreme. How to explain that? Yeah. Okay. So most of the monotremes are found on Australia and South America. They are organisms, not echidna, I think, egg-laying organisms. That duck-billed platypus. Those organisms, they were the ones to first split off from other mammals. They were having most of the mammalian features, but the thing was they were laying eggs. Yeah, that's a disadvantage actually, because why is that? Now, can you guys tell me, anyone, why is laying eggs a disadvantage rather than having placental?
Sir, because when you lay eggs, that the eggs won't, or rather, eggs can be destroyed. Rather than when you give direct birth, it comes alive. But when it's an egg, you can just destroy it.
Yeah, that's the reason. That's why it was disadvantageous. Many other predators were able to hunt on the eggs, so they didn't need the mothers or the other parents for hunting process. They could actually survive on eggs. So that is why that's disadvantage. Then later on, followed by marsupials. Marsupials are the organisms having a pouch, like kangaroos, koalas. Then later on, placental mammals, which directly had their baby well developed until developed out organisms who are able to develop accurately. Like in eggs, if there is an nutrient deficiency, when the organism is inside an egg, if there is a nutrient deficiency, the mother cannot help that. The mother cannot do anything because now the organism is sealed inside a shell. But in placental mammals, if there is a nutrient deficiency, the mother could actually do something because nutrients are taken from the mother. That is why. Then evolution of monotremes. Evolution of monotremes. The first monotremes may have been evolved about 150 million years ago. The earliest monotreme fossils found in Australia. It may have been ancestor of the platypus. They laid eggs and had a cloaca. Does anyone know about cloaca? Guys?
No.
Cloaca, still it is found on birds, okay? So cloaca is a common passage for excretion and reproduction. And then traces are still found in modern monotremes. Evolution of marsupials evolved about 130 million years ago. One of the earliest and was the extinct genus Cynodelphis. It could escape predators by climbing trees and insect and worm. Now that part is very simple. Evolution of placental mammals evolved about 110 million years ago. The ancestor of placental mammals have maybe be an extinct genus. It was a tree climber and probably ate insects and worms. Eomia had several traits of placental mammals. Okay. Now they have actually found, now I read it about this in last month, I think, they have found another recent fossil having fur. So that is why they call them as recent, I think that is why the reason. The presence of fur was actually a very diverse factor. Most of the early mammals didn't have that. Sometimes some cynodons had, okay, smaller cynodons. But later on, that's it why we call Eomia as the most recent placental mammal. The placental mammals of placental Eomia were generally more successful than marsupials and monotremes. On most continents, placental mammals were able to dominate mammals, while marsupials and monotremes died out. Marsupials remain most common and diverse mammals in Australia. The reason for their success is not yet resolved. So, actually, I can explain this simply. Initially, Australia was attached to Gondwana Land, the large continent. When mammals started to diverse, now I told you one factor needed for the process of evolution is animal movement, right? So when animals started to diverse, some marsupials were able to go to the continent of Australia, and later on, due to tectonic movements, Australia got separated from the mainland, and these organisms were able to evolve inside that. But due to the, I think some scientists have shown this as a theory, due to the lack of predators, sometimes that is why there isn't much change on these organisms. Traditional classification. Now I'll show, later on I'll show you the recent classification. Now, wait, this is the recent classification. Now I'll talk about a bit about traditional classification. The most widely accepted traditional classification of mammals are the divides live placental mammals into 17 orders. Actually, now it's 15, I think. 2 other orders got merged together. Placental mammals I'll talk about that. Placental mammals are still commonly placed under these orders. However, these classifications are not really useful for studying mammalian evolution. Now, I told you that 2 recent orders were merged together, right? Why can't we use traditional classification in order to identify evolutionary traits? This is the reason. Due to the invention of genetics and other gene technology, other scientific inventions, scientists were able to do many experiments regarding molecular level. So here, order Cretaceae, the order Cretaceae in which whales and dolphins belong, scientists did test on them, and later on they concluded that order Cretaceae, those organisms were actually belonging to order Artiodactylia. Order Artiodactylia are the organisms having rhinos, giraffe, those organisms. So actually externally we can't say any similarity between those organisms because whales, for an example, found in oceans and other organisms are found on land. So that is why we can't take this traditional classification to explain mammalian evolution. Okay. Now, before that, I thought to explain a bit about other basic mammalian features, right? The presence of hair or fur, I told you it was used for, yeah, I've given you the same stuff in here. I'll explain this, is much easier. Presence of hair or fur, mostly the hair or fur was found on mammals found in it became a more diverse factor. Then presence of sweat glands. Does know the function of sweat gland?
The glands that produce sweat.
The glands that produce sweat. So the use of sweat is it involved in cooling of body temperature, and also act as a method of excretion. Excretion is removal of other toxic substances inside the body. So this is also a mammalian feature. Then presence of the lactation process, presence of mammary glands. Then presence of ear. Now the external ear, that's also a mammalian feature. Then presence of ear bones. This is human ear bone, ear bones, malleus, incus stapes. Then later on, presence of 4 types of teeth. I told you about that, right? The incisors, canines, premolars, molars. And later on, 4-chambered heart. Now, 2-chambered heart, 3-chambered heart, 4-chambered heart. I'll explain it in a much simpler way. This evolution was found, this change of feature was found in order to make the animals more stable during metabolism. Okay, so when the heart had 4 chambers, it was able to prevent mixing of oxygenated and deoxygenated blood inside our body. Okay, now this is the most common one, the recent mammalian classification. Order Monotremata. Mono means one. Tremata, I think. Wait. Whole or a cloaca. Okay. Order Monotremata means one whole. So these organisms had a cloaca. That is why. Then Theria means wild animals. So they gave rise to Marsupialia. Then later on Afrotheria, Phenatras. So Afrotheria, I should talk about this a bit. Afrotherians are all orders found on Africa or any relation to Africa. That means this organism may be found on Africa, but also their ancestors may have been originated in Africa and later on moved to another area. Those organisms were belonging to this. Then Phenatras, then Eurocontas, then likewise, this is the modern classification. Actually, I came to talk about the mammalian evolution. So that is why I didn't that much touched on this process of evolution, because I'll give you a brief thing regarding this later on. All right, now this is the traditional classification. Insectivora, having sharp teeth. Wait. So insectivoras, they are having small sharp teeth, and then edantas having few to, you guys can see me, right? Having few to no teeth. They are depending on insects, but actually they have small teeth inside their mouth, which enable them to chew. Some do not have that. Then Polydota, having large plate-like scales. Now these plates, they are actually not scales, but they are made due to merging of hair. These organisms also have hair. Okay. Now these small scales, you can see these spines, right? These spines and these small scales, they are shiny, but actually they are not those arthropodian, those scales found in insects. These scales are actually formed by the merging of hair together. It's provide protection. Okay. There are digit supporting membranous wings. Chiroptera, the word actually means digits on wings, something like that. So you guys can actually see the digits. These are the digits. So they involve in the flying process. Then for that order, most of the bats are included. Then carnivora, cats, dogs, big cats, those organisms are belonging. Seals, long pointed canine teeth. Now, can anyone tell me the function of canine teeth?
To chew meat.
Chew meat. Yeah, actually, more precisely for tearing of meat. So, bite in shredding. Yeah, okay, that's more good. Shredding of teeth. These organisms bite onto meat and they pull. So when they pull, these canines are the canine teeth are the ones who are which enable them to tear away that meat. Then rodentias, incisor teeth grow continuously. These organisms, small screws, these organisms bite onto solid food, and that is how they involve in maintaining a constant level of their teeth height. So if not for that, these organisms will continually grow their incisor teeth. Then lagomorpha, chisel-like incisor teeth. Pterodactyla, odd-toed hooves. Also Pachytactylans and Artiodactylans. This is very important. These organisms are classified according to their hoof number. So Pachytactylans, they have 1 or 3. 1 for being horses, they have only 1 hoof. Then 3 for rhinos, they have 3 hooves. Then for Artiodactylans, they have even-toed hooves. Most common ones are cows, bear, cattle, sheep, those goats, those organisms. Then primates, they have 5 digits on hands and feet. I'll explain that later. I have given a separate slide for that. Cetacea, paddle-like forelimbs. Now, I told you initially that a group of an order of organisms were merged together due to molecular level discoveries. So Cretaceans, they were merged together with Artiodactylans because of that molecular level thing. They have paddle-like forelimbs. So these fins, actually, they are their forelimbs modified. So in order to help in the swimming process, they have their digits inside them. If you observe a whale, for an example, a whale skeleton, you can actually see those digits. The primates, proboscidae, tusk. So can anyone say about this? Does Sri Lankan elephants have tusks or not? That's easy.
Some have tusks.
Some have tusks. Yeah. Why is that? Does anyone know that? So the reason for some having tusks and some having is a genetic factor. There's a gene which determines the overgrowth of incisor teeth of these elephants. So another thing, Sri Lankan elephants, the female ones do not have tusks. Actually, African female ones have, not the Sri Lankan one. That's called Asian elephant. Okay, the African elephant, the male and female, no matter the gender, they both are having tusks. But on Asian elephants, the female ones are not having that. The Hyracoidea, hyrax are involving in the belonging to this order. Rubbery pads for feet. Rubbery pads, they help in shock absorption, so they could run fast. Then Dermoptera, membrane of skin between legs and legs for gliding. Flying lemurs. Then Pinnipedia, feet with fins. They are also having a more modified legs like whales to help them in the process of swimming. Now, there's another thing. These organisms and whales both are having a smooth skin. So why is that? Why don't they have fur? Can anyone tell me that? Why don't whales and seals have fur?
Because it will slow them down in their swimming process.
Yeah, very right. It will slow them down. That's the reason, due to the lacking of fur. Order Firentia, that's another order which got merged into that Artiodactylans. Paddle-like tail. Tibulodentatas, teeth without enamel. Now, teeth without enamel means they are having bony teeth. The teeth are an extension of their jaws. Now, the majority of the presentation is over. Now I'll give you a basic introduction on how these mammalian orders were created during the periods. Now you might be wondering when these organisms were created. So Carboniferous period, appearance of first ammonites. So amniotes, even I messed up that. Amniotes, the first fully terrestrial vertebrates. So amniote, This is why we call them as amniote. If we take an egg, it is having an amniotic membrane surrounding the small organism and having amniotic fluid inside. So that in this way, the drying away of the organism. So land life, land habitats, the most essential thing is the presence of water. Why is that? Because we can't live without water. Okay, so that is the even though water is the most essential thing to live in land, that is the most lacking thing even. So we can't find water everywhere. So in order to lay eggs, the organisms had to find another way. So that is why they created this amniote. So the organism, the youngling, is submerged inside the fluid until they are fully grown. So they are lacking of water cause. Then challenges of vertebrates had to face during adapting to land life. Lack of water, I talked about that. Protection. This shell provide protection. One of you guys said that, I think. Then different types of diets. That is because some were depending on juicy leaves and some were depending on fibrous leaves. So that is also a challenge which they had to face. Permian period. After Carboniferous period came the Permian period. Evolution and spread of synapsids, Pelycosaurus and therapsids. So this is a Dimetrodon, a pelycosaur, and this is a therapsid. I later on show you how the therapsid became a synodon and later on a small shrimp. All right, so in here, during Triassic period, evolution of synodons to become more small and more mammal-like appearance of the first mammals. So synodons, I explained that those were organisms who were showing certain mammalian features. These organisms were starting to become smaller and smaller. The smaller they became, the more mammalian they were. So you can see a beak in them, right? So later on, after several generations of animals, later on they became smaller synodons. Now they are having fur, they are having small foldings, and they are even showing whiskers. So they are more mammalian than these synodons. That is why they were able to survive, because even during that Chicxulub impactor, that meteorite collision, they were able to hide inside caves and burrows while these organisms were outside in the exterior getting boiled to death. Jurassic period. Then after Triassic period, Jurassic period, spread of mammals which remain small in size. Okay, right. Then after Jurassic period, Cretaceous period, emergence of monotremes, marsupials, and placental mammals. So the Cretaceous period is well known for the decline, show the dominance of dinosaurs. Cretaceous showed decline of dinosaurs. At that time, emergence of monotremes, marsupial, and placental mammals. During the elimination of dinosaurs, another organism started to take the land habitat. All right. Anyone having problems? Guys? Okay. Then later on, appearance of first large mammals. Now I have shown a number in here. I forgot to tell about you this. This shows the this shows 145.5 million years ago. This process occurred. Now here about 65 million years ago. Now about here 50. Early whale, okay, the primitive whale. You guys can see that its whole body is covered by fur, and even they had whiskers. Then later on, rapid evolution of diversification of placental mammals. Now this is our placental grandma. Here she is the one who gave rise to all the mammalian orders. Then later on, appearance of remaining mammals, families, diversification of fossils and mastodon, the first apes. Now we were belonging into this category. Then mastodons were the earliest ancestors of those elephants. Do you guys know where we could find mammoths, the mammoth remains? Guys?
Siberia.
Siberia. So Siberia is in the Asian continent. So this shows that woolly mammoth is more related to Asian elephant than African savanna elephants. And they have genetically also shown that. There's another thing. Now I read this in last week. They have actually found a mammalian, those mammoth infant, a small baby, well preserved, having viable cells inside its body. And later on, scientists are actually doing experiments to preserve that and later on create the mammoth again by combining it with the Asian elephant, the most recent or the mostly related ancestor of mammoths.
Don't we need to, if we are actually creating the mammoths again, they need to be in like Antarctica or something, no?
Can you be more clear?
If
Like
we are,
the cold.
don't they have to be, if we are creating
Yeah.
they have to be placed in cold environment?
Yeah, that's the thing. Okay, even though we create this organism, these organisms couldn't survive. That is the reason they got eliminated, right? The reason they are extinct is that because the environment is far more hotter than the one these organisms are used to. So if you are correct. If the scientists are working on to bring these organisms back to life, they have to make they have to do it in Antarctica or Arctic regions because it needs a very high colder environment. Right. Then later on, appearance of many existing genera of mammals, including the genus Homo, in which the modern humans belong, spread and then extinction of many large mammals, appearance of modern humans, then later on rise of civilization and spread and dominance of modern humans. Now I came from earliest mammalian ancestor to the present human. So I told you I'll talk about primates. So this is the slide. Evolutionary traits of primate. Primates, here's the thing. They were initially arboreal. We were adapted to live on trees. But later on, we started to show changes in which enable us to walk on land and become the dominant species. So the skull volume. Now you guys can see that this is an ancestor of modern humans. The skull volume is much smaller than the present human, and also the snout. Okay, they had a snout, and we have a flat face. So the skull volume. Why is this important? Because when the skull volume to body ratio increase, just remember this skull volume to body ratio. Okay, not just the skull volume. Because there are other mammals having larger skull volume, such as whales. They are having larger skulls. So that doesn't mean they are more intelligent than us. Why is that? Because their skull volume to body ratio is very low because they are having a very large body. So that ratio is very low. But according for us, our body is having a smaller value relative to skull volume. So our skull volume to body ratio is very high, and that enables us for a well-developed brain. Then colored vision and 3D vision. Can anyone say why does colored vision is very important for evolution of primates?
It is.
I'm sorry?
It is.
Yeah, it is very important. So colored vision, this is very important because
Why is 3D vision important? It's okay.
What? 3D vision.
Why is that important? It's okay we see 2D.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you about that. Colored vision, this is important because we need to identify mates. Okay, also habitats and our day-to-day activities. That is why colored vision important. I don't have to talk about this. But then 3D vision is very important because it enables us to measure distances. Now just think, initial primates, we were arboreal. So arboreal animals are jumping from branch to branch. So when an organism jumping from one branch to another, he or she should be able to measure the distance roughly and provide a force. So that is why 3D vision is important. I'll give you a good example. Do you guys have a pen nearby you? A writing pen?
Yes.
So just take the pen and remove the clip. I don't have a pen with a clip, but I have. I have this smallest pen with the top removed. So if 3D vision, we need both of our eyes, right? That's clear, right? So for 2D vision, we only need one eye. That is 2D. So why, in order to find why 3D vision is important, just close one eye and try to put the clip back into the pen. You guys see why it's important. Okay, so now I close my eye and I try to put that in, but I can't actually do that precisely. Okay, so when I open both of my eyes, I can actually measure the distances between the clip and the pen, and I can actually put that in. That is why 3D vision is important. We can actually measure the distances and other important factors. Even in
I closed one eye and
you are well developed that mammals. Okay, if you are able to do that with the 2D eye, bravo, well done. But most of the other humans can't do that because we need 3D vision. Then reduction. Am I clear?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So reduction of snout. Snout, it is actually hinder in order for movement, because when a snout is found, we can't actually keep our head straight. Okay, now the head will be always downward, tilted downward, and also the snout inhibit our vision process. And later on, by a flat face, we can actually see well. So reduction of snout is also an evolutionary trait. Bipedal movement. So bipedal movement is the movement using two legs. Why is that important? Because we could actually move very fast by using two legs, and it actually helped very well during the process of evolution. Then reduction of sensitivity for sounds. Now here's a very important thing. Initial cynodons, those animals found during Jurassic regions, I told you that they hunted during night time. So when they hunted during night time, they needed a well developed ear system. But later on, when dinosaurs got removed, they started to hunt during daytime. Now they didn't need a well-developed ear. They needed a well-developed eye. That is why we are having 3D colored vision and 3D vision, and also reduction in sensitivity for sounds. So primates, we are usually active during daytime, but some are active during nighttime. They are having certain changes regarding this. Then these organisms, that is why reduction of sound sensitivity is found. So they need a well-developed eye, not an ear. It's useless. Okay, yeah. Did anyone speak?
How come some mammals have the ability to see in the night and we don't?
I believe that is because the reason is that they were able to adapt to the certain daytime durations rather than us. So the organisms who are active, who hunt during night, are having a well-developed eye. They can see due to chemical changes inside the eye, and I can explain it, but it will make the demonstration more complex. So see during night is increased in them, but on us, that's another story. We are active during daytime, so we can actually see during daytime. That is the reason. So does anyone have any questions regarding what I taught you today?
About the eye vision. What do night vision goggles do when we put it on?
Night vision goggles, in night vision goggles, they have a certain screen. Okay, it is made out by a certain glass, and they control the amount of light entry into our eye, and they actually stimulate certain certain nerve receptors inside our eye. Okay, now just think, it acts as an amplification thing. Like I'll give you a basic example. The night goggles, they actually act as the ear bones inside our ear. So the ear bones, they take on the sound vibrations, they amplify it, and they give it to our brain, so we can hear them clearly. Likewise, the low low vision light rays that is found during night time is taken in by the goggles. It is amplified and it is sent into our eye, so it stimulates certain nerve receptors inside the eye, and we can see the images. That's another thing. There's also a technological night goggle in which we actually see through a computer screen like thing. Okay, we actually see through a screen. The image is formed inside the screen, and we see that. There's another one. So that is the more common one actually, not the other. All right, any more?
No idea.
Okay, so I hope you guys got a rough idea on how mammals got evolved from the end of Mesozoic era, and later on primates and other humans were created, and the processes required for evolution, and also the events which took part during the process of evolution. I hope you guys keep such lectures in the future. So this is a great thing, because most of the guys at your age, they are into video games and other monstrous things, but you guys are interested in environment, and I should appreciate that. Okay, thank you.